But yeah, so transfer window, of course, Pedro Porro is going to continue to be a focus of things at the moment. It's a really interesting situation with him because, you know, I've said it before, Spurs really like him, even with those little doubts about maybe whether he's a Conte fullback or not in physicality wise. But Sporting are just making it so clear that they will not let them go, him, or I think I saw a quote about Marcus Edwards as well, if anyone wanted him, that they will not let Porro go unless someone pays the release clause, which it's really awkward because it's one of those things where when you look at it straight at, you kind of think, well, just pay the release clause. But actually, when you delve a little bit deeper, it's slightly different because obviously with a release clause, Porro's is 39.5 million, 45 million euros. You need to pay the full whack, the full amount up front, especially if you're a club that don't want to sell. You know, you're not going to negotiate. You're going to go, all right, then if you're going to give it to us, we'll have £1 a month. You know, it doesn't work like that. It's got to be the full whack up. And I think, certainly in Spain, I think they have to register it with the league. I think the money has to go in and then the contract gets released or something like that. I'm not sure if it's the same in Portugal or not. But either way, it seems to be, the indications in most of these deals is that it's the full amount up front. And that's just not a way that most clubs operate. Of course, your incredibly rich clubs like your PSGs, your Man City, now your Newcastle, maybe Man U with the revenue that they create. But the majority of clubs, they will do stuff in instalments. Even when you hear the term up front, often even that upfront fee is in bits. So what you'll actually get, I put out a bit that I think people took slightly wrongly yesterday. I said that Spurs would look to compromise. They look to negotiate. I think people automatically took that as, they can't even afford the fee or they don't willing to pay the fee. Actually, when you negotiate in terms of, release clause, I think of the simple word I've actually been talking about in the last few minutes. When you negotiate, sometimes clubs actually negotiate a higher fee than that because they are paying in bits. I guess it's a bit like, I suppose if you go into, I don't know, like Curry's or PC World or something, and I'm not promoting anyone there, but any shop, if you go there but you buy it on finance, of course the overall price is going to be a little bit more, which is similar, I suppose, to a player. And yeah, so look, I understand the frustration, and I know there's people out there that are very much like, well, you must have the money, just pay the full whack. But it is, I can't stress how rare that is actually a thing. And that's not me, saying it's like, Tottenham are paupers or anything like that. I don't think they are. I'm sure these next bunch of finances are going to show a much healthier Tottenham than during and maybe even pre-pandemic because of the stadium being fully open. But it does not take away from the fact that very few teams will ever pay a big fee up front. And of course, the other issue is they have about 75 different right wing backs at the moment, and that's got to be sorted. When it comes to Emerson Royale, I understand that there is interest from clubs in Spain and Italy for him. Potentially loan to buy deals, but that's yet to materialise into anything concrete so far for him. And interesting, kind of on the players' side, he's not believed to be pushing for a move. From what I understand, he held talks with Conte last summer. I think Atletico Madrid were very interested in signing him, and he had some talks with Conte, and it was all decided that he would end up staying. And yeah, from what I understand at the moment, he hasn't got any desire to kind of head off into the distance, and his people aren't looking to negotiate with any clubs or, what's the best word? Look to encourage any advances from clubs. But of course, from Spurs' perspective, from everything that I understand, they would be willing to listen to offers for him. But I can't see, and this is only opinion, I can't see how they sign Porro without someone going out. I can't see how they leave themselves in a position to have 4 right wing backs, but also Perisic, Kulusevski, Lucas, if he ever gets fit again, that can all play there. It's such a bloated area of the squad it would be. Look, I understand there's people out there who are just like, get him, whatever, get him. but in reality, it doesn't really work like that. So some, one or maybe probably two would have to go out to get him in. Another link that I've seen this week, Leandro Trossard. Yeah. From what I understand, I think he's been offered around a few clubs because I think there's maybe not going so well for him at the moment at Brighton, despite he's had a decent season. 7 goals, 2 assists in 16 Premier League games. So that's 9 goal involvement in 16 Premier League games. He's had a good season so far. I think he had a contract until the end of this season, but there's some reports that Brighton have taken the option to extend it by another 12 months. So he wouldn't be that expensive still, even with that on. My thing with Trossard is that he's not really... He's 28, so he's not a normal Spurs profile signing, but I can absolutely see him as a Paratici-Conte signing. That's the one good thing, I guess, about what Spurs have done is Paratici and Conte, I do think, have a very similar view in players. I think they do on the whole. I don't think Paratici is one who will always look towards young players. I think he will try to for Spurs, but I do think his MO is maybe older players. You see a lot of free transfers at Juventus, older players. So I think he and Conte will look for more ready-made players if they can. So I guess that's a good thing that they're aligned in that respect. So Trossard for me would be one of those kind of players. He's versatile. Mainly plays down the left, I think, but can also play in the centre. So yeah, you have that. My only thing, and I think I've said this sometimes about players before, is it's all very well being linked with the player and the player thinking, oh, bigger club, I could move on there. But also, if I'm Trossard and I'm looking at that Spurs squad, I'm seeing that Son and Richarlison probably are ahead of me in the playing on the left role. And obviously you've got Perisic can play there as well. So, yeah, it's one to keep an eye on, I think. I wouldn't rule it out because I do feel that it seems like a ready-made player who could been there and done it and is scoring goals in the Premier League. So if he was offered and it was a good price, I can't see why they wouldn't try. But I would also add on that Spurs are going to be offered a lot of players in these weeks ahead. A lot. Having spoken to agents, a lot of them, knowing many different ones, I know the way they work. I know the way they approach clubs with players to try to start a ball rolling, to try and... Sometimes it's to, they readily admit this. Sometimes it's to engineer a new contract for their players. Sometimes it is genuinely to get them away. Sometimes it's to spark interest so that a club that they know are really far more serious about them come in. It's such a web of different things that happen in transfer window. It is madness. It really is. But yeah, no, keep an eye on that. Like I said in the last video, I feel like we're going to start to see things kind of heating up now. Like I've said before, right wing back and attacker, they're the two that I was told as a priority by quite a few people. And, if there was an opportunity for a central midfielder or centre back that they think can't wait till the summer, then they'll try to do that if that's a possibility. But on the whole, I said before, the plan was for the summer was 2 centre backs, one that can play on the left, one that can play centre or right, obviously right footed. A successor for Hugo Lloris for the long term, and also a central midfielder as well would be within that as well.